Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to be talking about a question that I got on Facebook, and I didn't think it was serious, but from talking to other people in the comments, it appears that it was serious, and so I will answer it, and it's why can hookers do it multiple times a day and your wife can't? So much in that. But before that, please do subscribe. We have lots of subscriber episodes. Why do women dream about their exes? And just a lot of other ones. Close to 150 by now. All right, so let's just dive in. So firstly, being on social media really, shows me kind of a lot of different people. And a lot of those people are really bitter. And the reason that they are on relationship pages and troll relationship pages compulsively is because they were hurt in relationships. And what have I taught you, right? That's because they were hurt growing up. So then they've been drawn to really bad relationships, which mimic and mirror the relationships that they saw as a kid and how they felt treated as a kid in directly. So there's a lot of guys that got cheated on by women or are in these very bad relationships. There's a preoccupied partner and the woman is avoidant or rejecting or cold in some way. And then they feel that all men struggle with that and all women are basically bitches, and you've heard this rhetoric and seen these sort of comments. And so this guy, basically, I didn't even think about this, but a different male commenter said this is an excuse his wife is giving him, because I did a video to explain this, a little video, which you can find on TikTok if you're following me, or Facebook, or anywhere that I do videos, which is everywhere. And anyway, so the guy said this is what his wife is telling him is her reason, and he's trying to make sense of it physiologically. Now, keep in mind that it was said in a kind of a nasty way, and it was like basically like, women are liars. Why can a hooker do it multiple times a day? And, it wasn't just him asking like, sweetly, inquiring as to if prostitutes have a different anatomical makeup. It was, and that's why I thought it was trolling, is it was in the context of him saying basically that I'm an idiot and what have you. It was that sort of negative tone. But then another male commenter explained, because I anonymized it, which of course I don't have to do. So when people do public comments, then they're public comments. And anything I ever talk about here is a public comment on my page said with the person's name. But, or unless it's a topic that came up in the secret group, and then people they have told me, feel very special if I then make a podcast about something that they've brought up, which is never their specific story, but rather an issue. I make it into a larger issue to talk about. But anyway, so this guy was being rude and saying this, but then another guy pointed out that this is something his wife must have told him, is that women can't do it multiple times a day. And then he is like basically thinking, well, she's lying because hookers can. So he basically, it's really interesting if you think about it. So his lens of the world is that women are terrible, right? And liars probably. And so then this, what his wife said, it amplifies and confirms. Confirmation bias is a super normative cognitive bias that we all have, where we pay more attention to things that confirm our view of the world. So he feels in that moment that his wife lied. That she knows that women can, in fact, do it multiple times a day, but she told him that they can't. And so this is an excuse, the guy explained to me, that was the male commenter. This is an excuse his wife gives him, and he's trying to say that he knows that it's bullshit. And he's figured out why. Well, that was, very interesting. I thought he was literally just saying, like, why doesn't your wife act like a hooker? So that's what I addressed in my video. And that's, in case that's what he meant, I'll also address that here. I'll address all of the different angles of the wife versus hooker question. But I thought that was really interesting in and of itself, because it's likely true. It's likely true that his wife said that. And you know what's even crazier, right? Is that she might think it, because many women have said to me, oh, you can't do it twice, 2 days in a row because it hurts, so women can't do it 2 days in a row. I'm like, what? Yes, they can. Like, that is, how do you think babies are made? Woman does it a whole bunch of times when she's ovulating, especially, and there's nothing in the vagina that means that you can't. And if it hurts, and I have a whole podcast about this, then unless there's a medical condition going on, you're likely not aroused, and there's no foreplay. And so therefore, of course, it's going to hurt if you have sex you don't want to have, right? So then it's like, hurts. You're not wet. You're not aroused. I have a podcast, Female Arousal, What It Looks Like, because a lot of men don't understand this, And so she, the wife in this situation, may well have thought that women can't do it twice in a day because she can't imagine it because it hurts, right? And so that makes so much sense given how many women have said to me, you can't do it on your period, can't do it twice in a day, 2 days in a row, etc. So women themselves have these sorts of things that they think that are these superstitions that they deeply believe. So, or else it's possible that she hates sex with him. So she does lie and literally say it as an excuse that she thinks is going to save face for him. So that instead of having to say, I don't like having sex with you, please don't ever try twice in a day, it's bad enough once a day, then she says, oh, women just can't do that, right? So that in and of itself was so interesting because it shows how communication can go so awry when people are not educated about sex and when they're not communicating with one another such that they can make their sex lives better and more pleasurable for both of them. Now we come to if he meant it just to troll and to basically be like, why can't wives just spread their legs a bunch because prostitutes do it, ain't no problem. Okay, so here's why. Let's just really just take a step back. I've done a lot of stuff where I've written about men who think that their only value is being a workhorse, being a provider, and these men really bemoan the transactionality that they perceive in male-female relationships, such that they are upset by the idea that a woman could possibly only think of them as a, quote, ATM. These are another category of the male commenters I have, are those who insist that women are only with guys for their money. And so that's not true. Of course, some women do like, to be with guys for their money, but that's just like how some guys are marrying women only for looks. That's not the majority of people. The majority of people are not trying to just extort anybody or take advantage of them in their marriage. They're trying to be in love with a person. And of course, 30% of women or more are primary breadwinners, which blows that out of the water, but whatever. So if men do not want women to be transactional, but still want the woman to say, well, I guess a hooker can do it, so I guess I, for his paycheck, should spread my legs twice a day. So what is that called, right? That's super duper transactional. A prostitute does not love her client, right? She's trying to get a repeat customer, so she's going to fake a performance. She's going to fake that she enjoys things more than she does. So she's going to fake an orgasm. She's going to fake that she's very excited, and she's going to use whatever lube she needs to get her there. And she is going to be putting on a performance, which she could be thinking about her grocery list. She could be thinking about her next client. She could be thinking about that this job sucks. She could be thinking anything in her head. But what she's not thinking about is that she loves this man, and this is an expression of their love. So you can't have a free lunch, no free lunch, as I've talked about numerous times, no free lunch at all. If you do not want women to be transactional, then do not say, if a hooker can do it, why can't she? Now, in the video, I said, you can, by the way, do 8 hours of yard work a day, too. And your wife could hire somebody to do 8 hours of yard work a day, and they would do it for money, and they might hate it and they might hate her, but it wouldn't matter because they would be doing it. They might love her, because she's paying them to do yard work, and they picked doing yard work as an occupation. But that does not mean that anybody's husband wants to do 8 hours of yard work a day, right? Or be told to do that. So that would be kind of the same for like the woman having sex all day like a hooker and the guy doing yard work all day like a paid laborer. We would not want to equate those things because within your intimate relationship, while I am certainly a proponent that you need to do some things that you don't want to do and get outside your comfort zone, you should not feel like you are a paid laborer of any sort. That is not the tone of engagement here that we are going for in a healthy, intimate relationship. So that's why your wife doesn't act like a hooker. Also, by the way, hookers have hugely high rates of mood disorders, including depression, PTSD, and elevated rates of suicidality. So while there are a very small percentage of women that are, more high-end escorts that are in charge of their own clientele and that are doing this to self-actualize, that is extraordinarily low. That's a very, very small subset of all sex workers, and it may not be who you think it is if you go to a sex worker. Many people are doing this because they have no other option, and it's not a job that is well respected, and it's not legal. So you don't have any recourse if things go badly. So if you are assaulted, which is very common, then you can't really get any help for that, right? Because you're already doing something illegal. It's like my son likes this thing on the radio, Florida Man, and every day they talk about a stupid thing in the news that a, quote, Florida man did. And one of them was that somebody called the police because a friend stole his weed. Now, that's, of course, what it would be like, though, if a hooker tried to call the police because the guy tried to leave without paying or what have you. She's already doing something illegal, so she has no recourse. And hopefully you guys have thought about this before, but if not, then it could be an eye-opener not to put hookers on a pedestal. A lot of guys also do this with the whole amateur porn thing. We do really don't know what percent of amateur porn is really consensual. There's levels of consensual too. There's somebody who's doing something consensually, but does not really feel that they have any other options at all. And so is that consensual? That is a matter for philosophers. But either way, what I think we can all agree is we do not want our wife actually acting like a hooker, because inside the hooker's mind, as she's doing all sorts of wonderful things for you, is, I hate this, I hate him, can't wait till this is over, hope he comes quick. And while some of you may say that's what my wife thinks anyway, and she's not doing the fancy shit, that would be a poor conclusion to draw from this and quite cynical. So where we do want to get to is that if your sex life is such that you feel that it would be better to be with somebody where it's purely transactional, then why don't you get into couples counseling or sex therapy to work on your sex life or your relationship? Because that doesn't sound great, right? So if you love somebody and you're being intimate with them, there's a lot of other connection and closeness that you get from the sex act. And, while of course there's a lot of reasons to have sex, like adventure and novelty and play and all sorts of things that I talk about in other podcasts, there's also connection and closeness. So if your wife starts to think about things very transactionally, then that's going to go away. Now, of course, there's a larger way that everything is kind of transactional. And if you're nice to somebody, then they're nice to you. Okay, cool. You get more flies with honey, etc. And as I said in a recent podcast, or not recent when you hear this, but maybe a month ago when you hear this, having more sex gets you out of doing shit you don't want to do. And that's the truth. But you shouldn't use that to excess, I mean, that's sure, the reality is a man is going to be happier and do more chores for a woman that is sexually open and warm and adventurous and loving, etc. But it's not like you should fake those feelings if you don't feel them. And you should be oh, I'm going to say I love you and cuddle up to him, but I really am going to divorce him next week. I'm literally talking to my attorney about it. I mean, of course not. That would be insane. Whereas the prostitute really is not thinking anything terribly good about you. You are just a customer, and if you do not want your wife to view you transactionally, then do not equate her performance in bed to a hooker. Do not think she should act more like a hooker. Hooker should not be in the equation. Just like she should not compare you to a paid laborer or the contractor. There are so many women, by the way, that are so into the contractor, whether it's sexual or not, who knows, but they love having that guy around, right? Because he's literally paid to do whatever you want. You're like, you know what? I just don't really like the counter. And he's like, great idea. Let's change the counter. All you have to do is pay him. It's basically the contractor is like a hooker, but for women. Everything that she says she wants to do around the house, he's like, that's such a good idea. Like, let's work together and collaborate. Let's meet at Home Depot and check out the different tiles. It's really quite funny to think about that as, the extension of what it would be like for a man to be with an actual hooker. For a woman, it's the contractor. But but as I've said to you so many times, most women do not cheat, do not think of that as sexual at all. But they may like that guy a lot. And so you could take a page out of, that playbook, and being more agreeable would be what to learn from that life lesson of what if your wife really loves dealing with a contractor. It's because he says yes. Just like I always say, come from a place of yes. Say yes as much as you can. And I have a podcast on home projects too, and creative outlet or waste of money. So you can go back and find that one. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed and were entertained by, at the very least, this episode on hookers, and I will talk to y'all soon. Please do subscribe.